Do 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 do.
To the Discord.
Yep, that's what I'm doing right now.
I figured the giggle might be that.
Cool. Oh man, that's really dark. All right, dude. Uh Ready to get rolling?
Let's
Ready to
roll.
start the show officially?
Let's do it.
Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. This is our October 2nd live stream. Appreciate everybody for hopping in, tuning in, and all that. It's been a lot of fun, and please share this with your friends, with your family members. Invite them to the live stream. Like we did last week, we'll open up with a Q&A. So make sure to use, send in your questions, submit your questions through the chat features and all of that. We'll make sure to run through them as best we can and as quickly as we can. So, yeah, excited for tonight, man. Bennett, it's the bye week. How you doing, brother?
Outside of it being the bye week, pretty good. Pretty good. Utah sitting in a nice place as they head into the bye week, have some opportunity to get some of the guys healthy, have some opportunities to help some of the guys grow and get better. Perhaps a guy in the safety room having that extra week to adjust, things like that, and just getting ready for an absolute challenge in Arizona State. Arizona State and Utah both being on bye this week. It's kind of sets up a nice little matchup when we come back together next week and start breaking down that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to this next phase of the schedule. And, this is where we're going to learn a lot about Utah, right? We got a first big test against Texas Tech. And unfortunately, given the circumstances and the context around what happened that week, I don't think we got a really genuine idea of how good this, Utah offense specifically can be. So, obviously we've learned a lot about this group through 5 games, and I think there's a lot to be excited about and a lot to be confident about moving forward. And so tonight's episode is basically, all of the above. We're going to provide a little report card running through position by position, giving a little grade and kind of talking through our thoughts on each position group. We're then going to look ahead to the remaining schedule and rank the difficulty of each matchup and kind of talk through some of the matchups that we like, some things that we don't like about the matchups and all of that. So I think this is going to be a fun one. And then again, just to reiterate for the people that are just hopping in, please feel free to submit your questions. We've got one followed up with another one. Shout out to F1 Nick. But yeah, submit your questions. We want to start with a live Q&A, so please feel free to send those send those comments, send those questions coming in, and we appreciate everybody. And dude, so you're a lefty?
I'm ambidextrous, so I'm not
Okay.
I'm not as straightforward as you, but writing, eating, using
Right-handed?
scissors, those are all left-handed things.
Oh,
Yeah, if
you're
I got to throw,
backwards.
yeah, I would have loved to have been a lefty. Maybe I could have been a pitcher or something like that. But yeah, I got half of it right and half of it left, I guess.
Dude, it's so surreal. Just the similarities. It's crazy. It's we literally are twins. I don't know what else to say. Anyways, starting to get some questions coming in, so appreciate everybody again. Just kind of submit your questions through the chat features and we'll get going to those pretty soon here. But let's talk first, Bennett, about just kind of the upcoming weekend. It's the bye week for Utah. And so it's kind of interesting one. Do you got any plans for the bye week? And are you going to be tuning in to any games this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, bye week is a perfect time to just absolutely hate watch, if you will, and root for
Yeah.
chaos and not have to have any concerns about what's going on in your own world of football. So I'll definitely be tuning into some. Definitely probably do some fall activities and things like that with the family since we've got that time to do so. So probably fall drive, maybe a pumpkin patch, maybe smoke some meats, maybe do some of those honeydews that
Oh yeah.
I've been putting off since football season started. But yeah, no, I'll definitely be checking out some of the football games. Iowa State, Cincinnati's one I've got an eye on. Cincinnati's favorite as the home team against Iowa State. I think it's an opportunity to kind of see what does Cincy have. They had a nice win against Kansas last week in Lawrence. So I want to check that one out. Outside of that, Texas, Florida, just because, just kind of a chaos thing. I think I became a little bit of a Gator fan when went to the swamp, rooting for that Vandy upset against Alabama.
You either did or you came away hating Gator fans. So yeah.
They were good to me, at least for the most part. I must have sat in the right spot because I did see some of that feedback.
Yep.
Texas Tech Houston's one that I think everybody's interested in. Houston undefeated, Texas Tech seeming like a wagon. See how that goes.
Ooh, FSU Miami, that's a good one.
Another good one there. Yeah, but mostly just rooting for chaos, rooting for all the underdogs, and spending time with family. That's the emphasis this weekend. How about yourself?
Well, lucky you, man. I'm working on the basement this weekend, so man, hoping to have that done by the end of the season, maybe, and I'll be able to record down there for an episode, maybe. So we'll see. But that's what we've got on tap this weekend. Working on the basement, so looking forward to that. Anyways, we've got a few questions rolling in, so we'll start getting to some of those and some of the comments as well. But like I said, continue to submit your questions, submit your comments. We'll get rolling through those as well. So yeah, I think again, just kind of talking about the team and all that. I think there's a lot that we've taken away through the first 5 games, but still a lot to learn. So I'm excited to get to it, man. So should we start diving into some of these questions, Bennett? Let's get to it, man.
Yeah, and again, just keep the questions coming. We're gonna answer those as they come through. We want to do live Q&A. We want to get you guys involved in it, and also just help steer some of the conversation. Steve and I got a lot planned for this episode, but we want to make sure that we're covering the things that you want to hear about as well. So let's dive in.
Before we get to the question, I want to make sure to give this, shout out to HVU, man. I've been in the gym working on my fitness and hitting the treadmill and the stair climber, dude. I'm getting my steps in, my 10,000 steps a day. I'm getting them in. I'm slimming up a little bit and also trimming up the beard. I think that helps a lot. So shout out to HVU for the love, man.
Recognize.
All right, where should we start first?
What everybody wants to know about.
Yeah, latest on the injuries, and I've heard good things. I've heard that this is a very timely bye week, and I think everybody is enjoying the time to focus on their rehab. And I think it came at just the right time for a couple guys, Jackson Benny, Aliki Vamahi, and Dallas Vakalahi in particular. So, I think there's a lot of optimism that we're going to see those guys, pretty soon. Arizona State, BYU, I think that's certainly within reach. I wish I could talk more about the injuries. Just don't have a lot of specifics, but I've gotten a couple positive updates this week that things are looking good for the guys that they've got injured. And again, with Aliki Vamahi, I think him not playing last week was to get him back for ASU and for BYU. And so with Dallas, heard it was just a retweak of his previous injury, and I think that's more encouraging than not, that it's not something else. So we'll see, but positive, trending positively on the injury front for those three guys.
Got a lot of injury questions.
Yeah.
You want to entertain this one from Chosen You? He says not to, but can.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
How much does BYU get beat by this weekend? Don't answer this. Just saying what's up. Go Utes.
Shout out to Chosen Utes.
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can get beat. As we've learned from that specific crowd, there's a lot of ways that you can get beat that aren't necessarily on the scoreboard. If you follow Stats of War, there's ways to get beat there. They lost to Colorado more or less there, but yeah, that shouldn't be a hard one for them to get done in Provo. The teams traveling on a Friday night don't typically fare well. That's a really tough travel, especially with that being across country already on a short week into a ruckus crowd. BYU should be able to move through that pretty quickly. They do have a true freshman quarterback starting. You never know what somebody can do in a pinch. Might be able to make some things messy for BYU, but they're predicted to win by quite a good, strong margin. As long as it's not 34, we can take one of those wins out of their playbook.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that one's going to be interesting. So I think West Virginia may have found, their quarterback. And, with what we saw from the Khalil something, but the lefty, he made some plays, made a couple throws. I'm curious to see what he looks like with a full week of prep. BYU should take care of business against the Mountaineers and win comfortably, but I'm certainly, I'll tune in at least. I'll keep tabs on that score for sure.
Friday night, not a lot going on. That's some watchable football.
Yeah, for sure.
Part of the bye week watch, if you will.
And F1 Nick said, I think referring to Ty Edwards, I do think he's back. And if they get him back, that's a significant piece to that West Virginia offense as well. So that would be a big one to get him back for them. So we'll see what that looks like. What else have we got here?
HD, do the hats go backwards and forwards in unison? We show up in the StreamYard and it looks whatever it looks like. It looks like tonight, Wyoming Cowboys. It happens, man. It happens. There was like a point in time where we were wearing the same color shirt, and then there's one time I get on and I'm not wearing a hat, and he's not wearing a hat. It just we're on that wavelength, brother.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
Rich Austin has a good one that what's your favorite breakfast spot in Salt Lake City on Saturday game days, and what's your go-to order?
Oh man, when I can get there, when there's enough time, it's always the Park Cafe. That's always the move for me. I love what is it? Eggs in the City. I love Eggs in the City. They've got a tasty little plate there that I always get. And so those are my two spots, Park Cafe and Eggs in the City.
For me, I have no complaints with Park Cafe. I have no complaints with Eggs in the City, but it's got to be sitting outside at Roost Diner. Big fan. Love the environment. Drive up the canyon just a little bit, and Roost Diner is really good. And my go-to order there is the chicken fried steak Benedict. Shout out Smoking Ute for introducing me to that plate. I'm a big chicken fried steak guy.
Frick that guy.
He doesn't know food. But that's the go-to order for me. I mean, they come out, they give you these big old biscuits, and it's just good. But it's about that time of year where it starts to get cold, and the outside play doesn't play as much.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I want to get to this from Tyrell. Did you guys see the injury report for Iowa State and Cincy? It was long. I didn't get through all the words on the injury report. I have a 50-word limit when I read things, and that's about I hit that pretty quick on that injury report.
That's why I call you when I want to talk to you.
Dude, it's okay, but for real, I think that has been something that's been really interesting to see is the amount of injuries that everybody else is dealing with, right? Like we know the injury bug has hit Utah and hit them pretty hard the last 2 seasons. And I think this season, it's been unfortunate to see the injuries and especially the guys that are now out for the season. Like that's been tough. Injuries suck. But I think appreciate the health that you do have because you look at Iowa State, you look at who else has had Colorado, TCU, they've had pretty lengthy injury reports, and I think that's West Virginia as well. So appreciate the health that you have, and I think that's been a big thing, at least for me. Seeing these injury reports from across the conference has been, it kind of gives you perspective, a little bit on these injuries.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate for the most part in that spot. It sucks to see the injuries in the safety room because that was something that was a little bit thin coming into the season. Kind of don't know what you got really. So losing Rabbit early hurts, and Nate Ritchie going down. Definitely going to need some guys to step up and maybe even fill in. Scally and Witt have been masterminds at moving guys into positions of opportunity. So maybe you see some of that down the stretch. But overall, when you look around the league, you're right. Utah doesn't have it that bad.
Yeah. Yep. So knock on wood, obviously, everybody knock on wood. Knock on wood. And let's make sure these boys are getting healthy. And again, just to kind of bring this back up, still Austin asking, if there's going to be any players we're expecting to have back from injury for ASU. You already hit on the injury stuff earlier, but if you missed it, good things for Jackson Benny, Aliki Vamahi, Dallas Vakalahi. I think the bye week came at just the right time for those 3 in particular. There's a couple other guys, Carson Kafusi, the true freshman. He's been dealing with something. He hasn't been on the injury report, but still dealing with something. And I think him not playing last week was big for him and helping him now get as healthy as he can for this next stretch run. So there's good news, guys trending positively. And again, I think the bye week came at just the right time for these guys.
Yeah. And Tyrell had a follow-up saying that he brought up the Iowa State injury report, saying, I bring that up because we don't play Iowa State and they could lose that one, which could be beneficial for Utah in the race. Iowa State doesn't have the toughest of schedules. Utah doesn't have that opportunity to get that head-to-head advantage. So if you're a Utah fan, you're a big Cincy fan too this week.
I think so. And that matchup in particular is really interesting now because, Iowa State just lost their top 2 cornerbacks. And with the way that Brendan Sorsby has been playing ball, he's a quarterback that I liked coming into the season, but just had questions about the guys around him. And there's still some questions, but I think with what we saw last week with Cincy against Kansas going into Lawrence and getting that win there, getting some playmaking on the outside, I still think Iowa State, I just trust them more in this situation to get the win, but there is a big pathway for Cincinnati to get this win against Iowa State. It's why they're favored, but it's going to be on Brendan Sorsby and that passing attack to take advantage of the injuries that they're dealing with in the secondary, in my opinion. So that's going to be a fun one. And again, like you said, if you're a Utah fan, you're definitely rooting for Cincinnati because you then get Cincinnati a few weeks later coming into Rice Eccles Stadium.
Yeah.
Not officially, but yeah, it's not good. So yeah, on Nate Ritchie. So just for the podcast, because the people will listen to this that didn't tune in, that aren't watching. Andrew asked, any update on Nate Ritchie, and the word that I got is he's done. So not great. Certainly unfortunate for him. I think he's going to be missed. Obviously, his experience has leadership and all of that is stuff that you just can't quantify. So yeah, pretty tough.
Start pumping up Nate Tillman.
Yeah, I think, and again, when we're talking about bye weeks and kind of the timely nature of it, Nate Tillman, for him specifically, you get all those rips against West Virginia. You can now go to tape and Morgan Scalley can walk him through tape and walk him through issues and mistakes and correct those things. And Nate, that's going to benefit Nate so much. So this bye week specifically for Tillman is so beneficial because he's going to have all that extra time to work on some things with Coach Scalley.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. A player comes in the heat of the moment and has to step up. It's you kind of come in like a little deer in the headlights. I'm not saying that was Nate Tillman. I thought he had some good moments, and he had some moments where he got some things on tape that he's going to look at and he's going to learn from. But having that 2 weeks to fully absorb that I'm the guy mentality is gonna do well for him. So. But yeah, Nate Ritchie didn't look great coming off the field on Saturday. Yeah.
How about some recruiting updates? So, I think two things going on here with Utah football. You've got the 2026 class coming in, closing in on the finish line in December, and you've got 2027 recruiting ramping up in a significant way for Utah right now. And so it's kind of a balance between both. And I think Utah feels really good about the momentum that they're gaining in each class. So, I don't have necessarily specific names that I can share just yet, but I will just share that Utah is trending positively towards another, nice little December finish like we saw last year. And if you remember last year, right, they weren't the 4-star guys. They weren't the highly touted guys that we had been following all season long, but Bird Ficklin, Daniel Bray, Pupu Sepulona, Dylan Curtis, all 4 of those guys we've watched this season and have come away really excited about what they bring to the table. Racing Guillory is another running back that committed in December. So I think Utah's trending pretty positively towards another positive December finish, and they're now starting to gain traction with 2027 prospects. And I think the thing here is, when you talk about that 27 class, we're seeing a lot of commitments, right? We're seeing a lot of commitments to other programs. There's a long ways to go. And, as long as Utah continues to take care of business, that's going to help them in their recruitment of other players. And as we've seen the last couple of years with the NIL stuff, you can flip some guys and it's very doable. So that'll be fun. And I think that's sort of what Utah's trending towards.
Yeah. And I'd expect some momentum, some opportunity for momentum with these next 2 games. You got Arizona State, win that. And then you go into Provo, win that. That holy war has huge implications on in-state recruiting and whatnot. But getting up there and getting those 2 wins in a row, that'll allow for some momentum to help close out the class. So I feel like Utah's kind of at this tipping point. There's some wait and see, get some momentum, and there might be some momentum from the donor base and whatnot as well. So
that helps too. All right, next question. We gotta start powering through these. Tyrell asks, during the bye week, what does the week look like for the team? Any practices or just mainly rest? So it is very light on practices. They are practicing, but it is very light. This is about rest. This is about recovery. This is about rehab. This is about all of those things to get right for the next phase of the schedule. So they are on the field. They are doing things. They are working out. They're doing all those sort of things, but it is very light. So I think that's the focus during bye week. Let's see. Dude.
Yeah.
Shout out our guy, Andrew Crane. Shout out the guy grinding that tape, dude. Turning into the Todd McShay Utah football. Maybe not Todd McShay. Maybe what's his face? The ESPN one. God, what's his name? Now I'm blanking on the guy with the weird food habits. What's his name? The draft guy for ESPN. Mel Kiper. My goodness, dude. Todd.
Put me on the pod.
All right, next one. This one from Steve Miller. What do you guys think would make Kyle come back next season? I think we kind of all assume this is it. So good or bad, what would motivate him to run it back? Man, I tell you what, if they have a good season and everybody's kind of pointing towards returning to run it back for another year, there's nothing quite like another winning season on the old resume. So we'll see.
It's interesting because there were thoughts that that was it for him after kind of getting to the first Rose Bowl, after the second Rose Bowl. You never know what Kyle's going to do, and he's earned that right.
Yep, for sure. All right, this one from Rich Austin. Ryan Davis has 348 receiving yards so far. If the over-under is set at 1,000 yards, which are you taking? And I have a follow-up.
I don't think he's going to get to that 1,000-yard mark, but I do think he's going to outpace what he's currently pacing. So 5 games in, 348 yards. Let's call that 70 yards a game. He's got 6 games left. So 420 more yards would get him to about 770 yards, 768 to be exact. I think he's going to be in that 850 or 900 range. But then you got maybe Arlington, maybe more. He can get there. I guess 1,000's not that tough.
Yeah, especially if he stays on this pace over the last couple weeks that we've seen. I wonder though if the more appropriate over under is 100 catches on the season. Is that more doable?
What's he sitting at right now?
36. So he'd have to go on a rip, dude. He'd have to go on a tear, dude.
Yeah. No, I mean,
maybe it is 1,000. Maybe it is 1,000 yards. Maybe that is the better number. Yeah, we'll stick with that.
I think the yards are easier.
Yeah, for sure.
This made me laugh, so we have to go here real quick. Crane says, "Compare me to Mel Kiper again, and I'll block you, Steven." And then he said, "What does a Scally staff look like? Beck at OC and Swan at DC?"
That is a terrific question, dude. I think obviously, Beck at OC makes all the sense. I think there's a great deal of desire to keep him around as long as possible. With the defensive coordinator position, I've always been of the mindset that Swan would make the most sense, only because I've always thought that Coach Shaw was more interested in continuing to coach the cornerbacks and make that his sole focus. That is something that he expressed to us media members, years back, like 2018, 2019, one of those years. That is something that he told us that's what he was focused on. He had no interest in becoming the DC, but there have been rumblings, the last couple of years that might not be the case. And if I'm Scally and I have an opportunity to have Coach Shaw as my DC, man, I really like the way that looks, that sounds. Coach Lou is another guy that's been with the program a lot of years. He's vital, absolutely vital to Utah's recruiting success. And he's a guy that is also worthy of that coordinator title. So Scally's got some options there. And I think if Shaw is genuinely interested in the job, man, I think that would be great.
Yeah, and I don't want to act like I know things, but sometimes I hear things and I don't know whether they're true or not. But heard that Swan was getting some looks from some places, and Utah took care of him to kind of keep him here at Utah. So I think he's a part of the plan, at least going forward.
Oh, very much. Yeah, and he's got the experience as a coordinator, as a play caller as well at Weber State. He's a guy. All three of those guys, like Scally, isn't going to be able to go wrong with who he picks there. So that's the good news.
I got flex real quick, Steve. Pick Six U says, shout out Glass for the Denver food Rex, 2 for 2. I got you, Pick Six. He sent him to Cherry Cricket and sent him to Sam's number 3 diner. 2 can't miss spots.
There you go, man. There you go. All right, this one from Scuba Ute. Scubaka Ute. I should say that right. My bad, Scubaka. If Witt comes back next year, it's to lead a senior Devin Dampier to a Big 12 title, college football playoff berth. Utah is still very much alive, in play for both this season, though, so time will tell. Last one here, Adam Howick. Hey, fellas, what do you think Harding's future looks like at Utah? Bright as can be. But no, specifically, talking to some of the details, Harding is a guy, he's had the run game coordinator duties with Coach Ludwig previously. He's instrumental in the game planning and putting together, sort of the plan with the run game. And I think, he's got interest in becoming a play caller. Does that mean that's his top priority? I don't think so. I know he loves living in Utah. I know his family loves it here. And, with Isaac Asiata being in that room again, I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that, those two will be in the program for the foreseeable future. But, at the very least, Harding now has a guy in Isaac Asiata that he can pass the torch to and continue to carry on that old block tradition with a lot of optimism. So, yeah. Yeah, it sounded wrong. Yeah, you're right. I should watch Star Wars.
We have another thing in common, Steve.
Oh, you've never watched Star Wars? Oh my god.
No, I've watched them. I'm just not I lack imagination as a kid where, people would be watching Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. It was a lot of Sports Center and a lot of live sports, whatever I could get my hands on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, dude. I think that does it for the questions. We got some good comments. Appreciate everybody for tuning or chiming in with comments, with questions. We didn't get to all of them. We didn't get to post all of them. So if we didn't get to you, we apologize. But man, we've gone 30 minutes running through some of these. So appreciate everybody for tuning in with that. So let's transition.
I was gonna say, and if we missed your question, we'll be in the space for a bit after this. So feel free to hold on to that, and we'll have some time to talk about it. But yeah, as Bartle's hinting at, we've got a lot more stuff to get into.
Yeah. So let's get to our position by position grades through 5 games of the season. I think this is just kind of assessing what we've seen so far from each position group and assessing sort of our outlook for the rest of the season as well. So Bennett, you drew the QBs, so you're up first. What do you make of Utah's QB situation through 5 games?
Yeah, I'll start off and I give the room an A-. I want to give it an A. I've been very happy with the quarterback play, but there's still some things that we need to see. In particular, the intermediate to long ball. Started to see some of that last week versus West Virginia. You might remember that we talked last week about just needing to see the ball, see us stretch the field vertically. Verticality was the word over and over again. Against West Virginia, Dampier was 10 of 14 on passes, 10 yards or greater. You'll remember that we talked about the yards per pass attempt on the season after the Texas Tech game. Utah was averaging 6.2 yards per pass attempt and had just 4.2 yards per pass attempt against Texas Tech. We agreed that we'd like to see Utah hover somewhere in that 8 yards per pass attempt. Against West Virginia, 9.1. You kind of see what that looked like. It felt like we weren't doing the dink and dunk stuff. We were finding more. Utah's finding more of the intermediate stuff. So that's been really nice. One big thing, Bartle shared this out. I'm gonna steal stats real quick because I'm sitting right next to you, and I've already given you credit and given the work cited. But wanted to make sure that the stats were rehashed here. Last season, Dampier threw a catchable ball on 79% of his throws. This season, he's climbed that to 87% catchable throws. So good improvement there. Last season, he was a 67% on target thrower. And this season, he's improved that to 78%. So he's throwing a pretty ball. A lot of people question whether he was an accurate passer, if he could, hang and whatnot. And thus far, he's really proven his ability to do that. And another thing is the interceptions. He's taking care of the ball. I think a lot of that comes from not having to play superhero football. He's got a defense that has his back. He has an offensive line that gives him the time. So we've seen those are some of the causes that's led to his improvement so far. But as Utah continues onward with this season, you want to see more trying that those intermediate to longer passes. So that way a stack box is no sweat off our back. And then, the other piece in the room, got to make sure we talk about Bird Ficklin. He's been awesome. He's come in and he's absolutely mopped things up. He's not just handing the ball off, but he's running the offense. He's looked confident out there as both a runner and as a thrower. And he feels like a great insurance policy for Utah. Whereas the last 2 years, Utah's been in a bit of a pickle when QB1 goes down. This year, if the time comes, I think everybody's going to feel good about having Bird Ficklin.
I think I think that's been such a fun dynamic to add to this team this season, is having a quarterback that you can funnel reps to late in games and get him those opportunities to execute the offense at a high level with minimal risk, right? You don't have your starters out there. He's running with the second and third teams, and yet you're still trying to get high level execution late in games, which I think is just a fantastic situation for Ficklin to be in, operating behind Devin Dampier. And, just to kind of add something here, I remember, as we were putting this together, I remember a conversation I had with On3's Ari Wasserman at Big 12 meetings.
You muted. I'm sorry. I thought my AirPods died.
Oh man, that was live streams.
You went out talking to Ari Wasserman at Big 12 Media Days.
And he called Devin Dampier an alien for the things that he's able to do with his legs, right? Creating something out of nothing, being dynamic and truly explosive, truly exciting. One of the most exciting players in college football last year. Ari Wasserman called him an alien. And I think I want to see Dampier show us some more of that alien type ability, right? The creating plays out of nothing. And I think he's been so good operating in this offense, behind this offensive line specifically. I think he's benefited a lot from a clean pocket. Obviously, that's led to the improvements that you noted with, improved on target numbers, improved catchable ball numbers. That's a product of a clean pocket. And I think that's really exciting. But there are going to be games where he's got to be that alien. And I think we've got to see some of that over these next few games specifically. So that's going to be something that I'm curious to see with him specifically. So I'm up next. I've got the running backs. And, this is a group that I think there's plenty of reason to be, optimistic and feel good about this group. But there are also some things that I think leave us wanting more. And first and foremost, gotta protect the ball a little bit better. Got to take care of, and avoid those fumbles, not put it on the ground and that sort of thing. But when you see Wayshawn Parker, he's got 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. You've got N'Kerry Rogers at 250 and 4 touchdowns. You like the overall production of this running game and this rushing attack with those two. Now we've seen Daniel Bray, and Coach Whittingham has talked about they need to get him more involved. And I think that's just another change of pace that could really round out the ability of this group specifically. But there's something here that just it's been bugging me. And I talked about it on the Tuesday podcast, the 5 burning questions episode, where I talked about Utah needs more juice for the squeeze that they're getting from their offensive line. And I finally kind of, found some numbers that kind of illustrate what I'm talking about here. So the Utah running backs have the highest broken or missed tackle rate at 27.9% in the Big 12. So among all Big 12, running backs, Utah's running back group are breaking or forcing missed tackles at the highest rate at 27.9%. However, their yards after contact is second lowest in the conference at just 2.4 yards. Now, the difference between first and 15th, where Utah isn't much in terms of the average number. I think first is about 4.1, which is significant. But what that number is, what it represents is you're breaking off some bigger plays. You're generating some more explosives after contact. And I think that is something that I want to see more from this running back group specifically. I want to see more of those big plays. Thinking back to the NFL last year with Saquon Barkley, Barkley had an elite line in front of him blocking, and he was able to capitalize by creating chunk play, explosive play, chunk play, explosive play, one after another. And I think that's what I need to see from this running back group specifically moving forward, going into this next phase of the schedule. So, and I think Bray can help with that potentially, where you can start hitting some of these home runs. They're hitting a lot of doubles right now, which is great, right? You're moving the chains, you're being efficient, but at some point Utah needs to start getting some big play explosives out of this run game. So for me, this running back room, given the production, you like what you've seen, but with the fumbles and sort of needing more out of it, I'm going to give this group a B-.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair grade for the group. No real concerns, but just more juice.
Need to see more. Yeah, just need to see more. That's all.
Yeah, I drew wide receivers. So start off with just go through some stats. Ryan Davis, 348 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, an 83% catch rate. JJ Buchanan, 9 receptions, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tobias Merriweather, 6 receptions, 96 yards. Also got 2 defensive pass interferences he's drawn. The question on the wide receiver room is, how badly does Utah need someone else to emerge? You've got Davis, who's emerged as that go-to guy, Mr. Reliable. He's made some absolute key catches throughout the season. But how badly does Utah need someone else to emerge? I'd say definitely need to get more playmakers involved in the wide receiver room. That'll certainly help, but wouldn't say it's desperately needed. I feel Dampier's still able to find wide receivers, find tight ends, and he's able to move the chains with his arm. But having an extra guy that can be relied on would definitely help further elevate this offense and can be the difference between scoring 30 in a game, scoring 40 in a game. It'll be interesting to see if Tobias Merriweather and or JJ Buchanan can help be those guys down the stretch. I think those are the two that have that opportunity knocking on the door. Tobias Merriweather, he's actually been pretty solid as far as on target catch rate. He's 85.7%. He has 1 drop on the season. So that just shows that he's got reliability as a receiving option, even if he's not always that go-to threat. The big thing for Merriweather, it's going to be just building chemistry with Dampier. Timing is so important. I feel like they've been off a step on several opportunities where if they weren't off a step, the narrative about the wide receiver room, the narrative about the deep ball, the narrative about explosiveness, it's all flipped on its head, and it's literally just a few steps that separate that from being what it is. So I don't think it's a, you know, I don't think it's totally bad. I'm going to go with B minus because of Ryan Davis. I'm going to go with B minus because of JJ Buchanan's kind of ability to, you throw it up for him, he's going to find a way to bring that in. We've seen that on his 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But still some room to grow there.
Yeah, and I think there's some easy things that they can do to get Merriweather, some easy touches. Ryan Davis is the first read, Dallin Bentley is the second read on most of these passing plays, and obviously Merriweather's gotta earn it. But I think there's certainly some things that they can do, tweaking some of the progression, some of the initial reads for Dampier to get Merriweather more involved. But you love what you've established with your top 2 pass catchers in Ryan Davis and Dallin Bentley, which gets me to the next group, tight ends, which I'm just going to put it out there. This is an A minus group, and it's largely due to what we've seen from Dallin Bentley: 22 receptions, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's been, really good in the blocking schemes as well on the ground game, and I think he is, emerging as one of the top tight ends in the conference this season. He's number 2 in receptions, number 2 in yards, and I believe number 4 in yards per game among Big 12 tight ends. And so you really like those numbers. I think Dallin Bentley can do even more. We talked about it, a couple weeks ago, where there were these indications that there's a bit more of a playmaking mentality that Bentley has than what we've seen from him up to this point. And I think we're starting to see more of that. We're starting to see more of the confidence, the chemistry developing. And I really like what Utah's done with Bentley. Now, in this tight end position, you've also lost Hunter Andrews for the season. I think he was going to be a guy that sort of emerged as that Brant Keithy type. How is Utah going to move forward without Hunter Andrews and the versatility that he provided this offense? That's going to be a big, big question mark that they're going to have to answer. I think Lander Barton can, supplement some of those reps, maybe, but you got to start using him, right? Don't just have him out there to run routes if you're not going to use him. I think that's going to be the thing for him with Lander. And then, you've got some other guys. Otto Tia started to finally get some opportunities last week. Can he continue to build on that? It's been a process for him getting acclimated to the tight end position. I think for him, that's going to be a big key and a big opportunity that he's got to capitalize on. So because of Dallin Bentley and what he's done so far, this group A minus for me, but big question mark moving forward that they've got to answer is how do they, supplement the Hunter Andrews production. So that's going to be a thing. The next group, offensive line, this is a B plus for me. I think this is an offensive line that has provided great protection. Dampier, they've trimmed the pressure rate allowed from 35% to 24% this season, which is significant. They've provided Dampier a lot of time when he's been protected as well, which has allowed him to, thrive as a passer. And then, with this run game, I talk a lot about line yards and, what that usually means for the run game. But there's this new stat, EPA. And you guys, everybody that's been following football for the last, little while, starting to see more and more talk about EPA, estimated points added, which is, the latest and greatest from the football geeks. I don't know how to best explain it, but it is a number that, essentially provides an indication of what sort of value these players' position groups are actually bringing to the field on a play-by-play type basis. So it's a cumulative thing, and I think this best illustrates the value that this offensive line has brought to the table for Utah this season. The EPA that this group, Utah's offensive line, is credited with, they're credited with 99.48 points added this season. That is number one, not only in the Big 12, that is number one in the country. And the gap between number one Utah at 99.48 points added and number 2 Auburn at 8 is 15 points. They're at 84.2. And just to kind of give you an indication of just sort of the gap, it is the same sort of difference between Utah at 1 and Auburn at 2. you have to go all the way down to number 16, where Ole Miss is, for the same difference of 15 points, just to kind of give you an illustration of how far that gap is between Utah and Auburn. So really significant. This group is providing a ton of value for Utah. And again, it gets back to my point earlier about the running back room. This is where we need to start seeing a little bit more juice for the squeeze. This group is providing you a lot of movement up front. It's time for these running backs to start hitting some home runs, man.
Absolutely. I got the other side of the trenches as we move to defense. I got the defensive line. I gave this group an A. It's probably the best performing unit on the team thus far, led by John Henry Daly, 6.5 sacks, number 1 in the country. Daly's been a dominant force. He's been absolutely disruptive. Even when he doesn't get home, he's there. He's creating pressure, wreaking absolute havoc. On the opposite end, you got Logan Fano, who might not show up totally on the stat sheet. There's still another gear there for Fano. Early in the season, he started off a little banged up, battled through an illness, things like that. So be interesting to see him come into his own as the season grows on. And then the real star is the D tackles. Coming into the season, it was looked at as a position group that might have been a little thin. And then there's some injuries that happen. And you've got true freshmen playing. Shout out Carson Kafusi, Poo-Poo. The guys have been stepping up, and there was concern about the depth, and the depth has been challenged early on, and they've absolutely answered the call. Jonah Laia has absolutely rose to the occasion. He's been really solid, and it's been a good group. And just a couple of things to keep in mind. Utah is number 6 in the country in time to pressure with 3.09 seconds overall. And then if you look at that base rush, that 4-man rush, number 3 in the country in time to pressure. So getting home in 3.17 seconds on average on non-blitz pass rushes. That's huge, because that now allows you, when you look at a team like Arizona State coming up, where you've got a dual threat quarterback where he can throw it, he can run it. You don't have to assign all of your resources to get that pass rush. So number 3 in the country in time to pressure on non-blitz pass rushes. Shout out to the D-line doing their job, earning their A grade thus far through the season.
Yeah, John Henry Daly being the guy, on the campaign for mayor of Sac Lake City, but a guy that I think is in the running for councilman or something. Jonah Laia, man, he's been a stud stepping up at that defensive tackle position. I think the most impressive thing about Laia, he's played the second most snaps on that side of the ball so far this season, which is significant. So he's been somebody that's been really big for Utah on that side of the ball. And yeah, Carson Kafusi, excited to see him more over this next little bit. He was dinged up. I think he's going to be a guy that we see a little bit more over these next couple weeks. He's getting healthy, and I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about him. I've got the linebackers, Lander Barton. There were a lot of questions about him and his ability to handle the green dot and the responsibilities there. And I think so far he's handled that responsibility quite well. Obviously we know that the green dot gets passed around a little bit, but that is primarily Lander's responsibility. And he's stepped up this season. I don't think it's been much of an issue at all. And so I want to make sure that we recognize that from him. There are way too many times where, I shouldn't say way too many times because it's his job, but I've just seen a lot of it where, he's pointing things out across the line of scrimmage, offensive schemes, what we're supposed to be doing, getting guys lined up correctly, seeing a lot of leadership from Lander, which I think is good. And then Jonathan Hall has really stepped up. He's the leading tackler on the team. He's had a couple of opportunities for interceptions that you like that he's in position to make that play. It's just now he's got to start making those plays. And then with Lavani Demouni and Trey Reynolds, those guys have been really good, providing some snaps and stepping up in key moments as well. So like this linebacker group, I think I want to see a little bit more playmaking from them as we get into this October and November stretch. They've been solid. They've taken care of business, but we need to start seeing a little bit more playmaking. So I'm going to give this group a B plus, and I think again, just want to see a little bit more out of them.
Okay, and as we move out of the front six and into the back end of the defense, I got cornerbacks. Gave it a B minus. It hasn't been a disaster, but that has been an area, if you're looking at the Utah defense, where there's room for improvement, it'd be on the cornerbacks. You can make the argument that some of their woes have come out late game in garbage time, if you will. But talking through it, Snowden, he's been a reliable cornerback. He's done some of that star coverage against top wide receivers on the opposing teams. He's been playing both ways, and we started to see Utah move away from that a little bit last week. It'll be interesting to see if that's something that you see more of, just spending more time on defense. He's been a stud there. So he's allowing 0.3 yards per coverage snap. He's been targeted 12 times. He's only allowing 33% completion percentage. So he's been rock solid there. When you look at a game like Arizona State, you'd expect Smith Snowden to be that guy that could potentially lock up Jordan Tyson, who's going to be a first round draft pick at the wide receiver position. Scooby Davis has also been pretty solid, allowing 0.6 yards per cover snap. He's allowing just 43.8% on his completions on his targets. Some areas to clean up, not just on lapses in coverage, but some of the tackling. You think of teams where they find success in the run game. It's on the edges on the outside, and you just want to see some more sound stuff out of that cornerback room. So I gave them a B minus. They've mostly done their job, but there's been some moments that you can get burned on if you don't have it put together.
Yeah, so with the safety group, that's what I've got next, and that'll finish us up here. I gave this group a C minus, and unfortunately, this group has been hit by the injury bug, which I think has certainly contributed to some of the issues and sort of not living up to expectations. I think there was a lot of excitement for a guy like Rabbit Evans, and there was a lot of optimism and confidence even that he would be a guy and a stud playmaker on this defense this season. And unfortunately, you just never got to see it this year. So, I think the missed tackles is a big issue in the secondary and especially in this safety room. It's been just a really bad tackling struggle for this safety room. Nate Ritchie ended with 11 missed tackles. Teo Johnson with 6 missed tackles. Nate Tillman had a couple missed tackles against West Virginia. Those are going to be things that this group has to clean up. As long as they can address their tackling issues, I'm optimistic that this group is going to bounce back and perform at a higher level. But that's going to be the key, is tackling. They've got to clean up their missed tackles in order to reach their the standard that Morgan Scalley should have in that room. All right, let's should we keep going? We've still got a couple things that we can run through, Bennett, but we're kind of up against the clock here.
I'm good whichever way you want to go. I think we can get into ranking the remaining schedule and then some of that other stuff. I mean, I think we've touched on in roundabout sort of ways. I'd say the one thing would be special teams. I could gloss over that super quick. Kicking, had one bad outing. Since then, made some kicks. Balls kicked out of the back of the end zone. That's been amazing. I saw UT ESPN post that so far this year, Utah has only had 4 kicks returned and 26 touchbacks. And of those 4 returns, returners are averaging 17.75 yards per return, placing
not
the ball
bad
short of the 25-yard line. So
not bad.
No doubt, kick it out of the back of the end zone. It's been something we've been asking for. The returners, the return game, need more there.
Yeah.
Need more.
Yeah, for sure. Need a little bit more there. All right, let's run through the remaining schedule. Let's run through that real quick, and then we'll wrap this up and we'll get that space going for you. So remaining schedule, you've got Arizona State coming to town. You've got Provo, BYU, Colorado, Cincinnati at home. You've got a bye week. You're going on the road to Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas on the road as well. How do you rank this, and what are going to be some things that you're looking at with each matchup?
Yeah, I could honestly flip a coin and pick BYU or pick Arizona State and be happy either way with how to rank them. I'll think land on BYU just because it's an away game. How much is at stake? How important that game is beyond just this season, but in the bigger picture of things. So, funny enough, ESPN's matchup predictor, take it with a grain of salt, but that's the only one that's the only game remaining on Utah's schedule that ESPN has gives the opponent a better chance of winning with a 62.8%. But lots at stake there, big game. And then I'd go Arizona State.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think BYU at Provo, especially, that's going to be a tough game. It would have been tough, had it been at Rice Eccles State. We know what this rivalry game is. You can put this default number one each and every year because that's just what this rivalry is, dude. It's incredible, and that the atmosphere down there in Provo, it's tough, and so we know what this is going to take. But I think that's going to be a tough one. And then Arizona State, Sam Levitt, dude, they're just playing good football, creating enough of an opportunity late in these games to make plays in the fourth quarter and to get these wins. They've been really impressive, tough as nails after that Mississippi State loss. But that's going to be it's going to be a tough one for Utah at Rice Eccles. But I think there's certainly some things that we like in that matchup that I think Utah can take advantage of.
Yeah, then from there, there's two away games, Baylor and Kansas. Feel like those kind of you could flip flop either which way. Baylor with the air raid, they come in and just absolutely light up a scoreboard in a flash. That's always something that can present a challenge, but they've also shown that they're bullyable, if you will. You watch how Auburn beat them. You watch how they play
Arizona State.
Yeah, I think that plays into what Utah wants to do. Utah's gonna want to push them around, and yeah. So I'd go.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd still put Baylor at that third toughest game, and then Kansas.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kansas, when you look at that team itself, like I think Utah should feel plenty confident about the team, but it's the context around the game, right? Thanksgiving week, Friday morning game, you just don't know, right? It's such a wild card, the situation that the game is in. I think I like the matchup, in terms of just talking, numbers and how Utah matches up with the Jayhawks. I like that one, but I think, again, given kind of the context and the situation that it is, I think that's fair to put it number 4 here, even though, maybe Kansas State or Colorado or Cincinnati are playing better football. I think given that Thanksgiving week game, I think it's appropriate here.
Yeah. And then the other games, Kansas State, Colorado, Cincinnati, I think they're all home games. You can rank them whichever way you want. I'd go Kansas State. They've got a good roster. They've got a good coaching staff. Season hasn't gone the way that they want. Murphy's Law says that by the time they roll into town, they're going to be pieced together. But Avery Johnson is a glorified running back, and one-dimensional quarterbacks just don't typically get it done against Utah defenses. Colorado, a lot of talent on the roster, and talent can flat out win games. That could be a trap game coming off the Arizona State BYU 1-2 punch. But with Colorado being a team that's in the spotlight, a team that gets a lot of that intrigue, Deion's Buffs is going to be a team that Utah should have no problem getting up against. And then Cincinnati.
Yeah. And with Colorado, I think, I don't know, is Cincinnati coming off a bye as well the next week? I know Colorado was coming off a bye, after Utah plays BYU, they'll have that bye that week. So they're going to be coming off a bye going into that Utah game, which, that just makes it, another kind of interesting layer when we're talking about the difficulties of these of these games, right? We learned last year what a bye week can do when you go back to that Utah Arizona game and the way that Arizona came in fresh and with a whole new game plan and all that. So that is something that I'm considering when we're talking about Colorado. So I feel like I would put them fifth and Kansas State sixth. But given the talent and sort of the identity that Kansas State has built and the success that they've had, I think it makes sense to have them fifth still. And then Cincinnati, it feels disrespectful to put them seventh because they are playing some good football, and yet it just speaks to kind of the difficulty of the remaining schedule. Like all of these teams are tight, but I think Cincinnati is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those points. No gimmies, no real gimmies down the stretch.
No, definitely not. And especially this one that Adam Howick, is calling out. So we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, let's wrap this one up. We've gone a little bit over an hour, which I think has been great. I appreciate everybody that submitted questions or submitted comments. We appreciate everybody tuning in and making this fun. It's been a lot of it's been a lot of fun, and I'll make sure UTESPN. I'll send you the beard tips. I'll send you the routine real quick here once we're done. So we're going to put an end to this. And Bennett, you're going to get the Twitter Spaces going here pretty soon, so we can pass the mic around and hear from everybody and just kind of how everybody's going to be approaching the bye week this weekend. So appreciate everybody. Bennett, appreciate you, my dude. And I'll be back at it tomorrow with another solo episode for the Blockcast. So appreciate everybody. We'll be signing off and get that Twitter space going.
Thanks, everybody.